Today I'll show you how I make my traditional Bûche de Noel. Translated, that's a Yule log cake. This is my Mocha Yule Log Cake with brown sugar cream cheese frosting and decorated with homemade meringue mushrooms. This recipe has a lot of steps to it, but it's quite easy to make. This festive holiday and Christmas cake will be a hit with your dinner guests. This is a big, fun baking project, my friends. There are a lot of ingredients, there are a lot of steps involved, but it's really easy, trust me, and you're going to have great results. I'm going to show you how to make everything from scratch. The cake, the frosting, the meringue mushrooms, and the chocolate sauce that we're using for the meringue mushrooms. And I just wanted to mention something about meringue. This is a type of food that needs to be really dried out. So you might want to start your meringue mushrooms on day 1 and then complete your cake and everything on day 2, because they really need to dry out overnight so that they have a nice crispy outside and they're soft on the inside. The last thing you want is gooey, sticky meringue mushrooms. And I also wanted to mention, there is a learning curve when you're making a jelly roll cake for the first time or second or third time. I admit, the first time I made my jelly roll cake, it fell apart. I overbaked it, I didn't trust the recipe, it completely fell apart. So don't worry, I'm going to take my time in this video. I'm going to show you easy techniques. I'm going to show you very visually what you need to do, and you're going to succeed. Here are the ingredients you'll need. For the cake, you're going to need 5 eggs, 1 cup of brown sugar, that's 220 grams. We'll be dividing that in half. You'll need ½ a cup or 70 grams of cake flour, 1/4 cup or 20 grams of cocoa, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I can't give that to you in grams because it's too light for my scale. You'll need ½ teaspoon or 3 grams of cream of tartar, 1 cup or 250 mils of whipping cream. Though my carton only has 237 mils, so I'm going to have to work with that. I don't understand why they give you just short of a cup in these little cartons, but we'll work with 237 mils today. You're also going to need some flavoring for the whipping cream. I have 1 ounce, that's 2 tablespoons of almond liqueur. If you don't want to use alcohol, you could use 1/4 teaspoon of almond extract. I have a jar of seedless raspberry jam and some cocoa for dusting. You're also going to need a little bit of melted butter to grease the parchment paper that we're going to line our pan with. I'll be frosting this cake with my brown sugar cream cheese frosting. These are the ingredients that you'll need. You'll need 2 packs or 500 grams of cream cheese. Make sure it's at room temperature. You'll need 1/4 cup or 60 grams of unsalted butter, melted and cooled, 1/4 cup or 50 grams of brown sugar, 2 teaspoons or 30 milliliters of vanilla extract, and 2 tablespoons or 34 milliliters of maple syrup. And for decoration, I have some cranberries and some mint leaves. I have some icing sugar, and I have my homemade meringue mushrooms. Here are the ingredients you'll need for the meringue mushrooms. You'll need 3 large eggs, make sure they're at room temperature, 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. I can't really give that to you in grams because it's a little too light for my scale to register. You're going to need some sugar, and I'll talk to you about the measurement after, but you'll need super fine sugar. If you can't find it, don't worry, just take regular sugar and put it in the blender on high for about 30 seconds. You'll also need some cocoa and some chocolate sauce. I'm using my homemade chocolate sauce today, and these are the ingredients you'll need for that. You're going to need some brown sugar. I have 1/3 cup or 75 grams. 1/3 cup or about 75 milliliters of water, 1 cup or 250 milliliters of milk, any type of milk you like, 340 grams, that's about 12 ounces of chocolate. I've broken it up into pieces and I'm using a mix of dark and milk chocolate. You'll also need a teaspoon, about 15 milliliters of vanilla extract. Let's start by making the meringue mushrooms. The first thing that I did was I preheated my oven to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, that's 90 degrees Celsius, and I had to look this one up. It's about 1/4 of a gas mark, if that helps anyone out there. I've also placed my 2 oven racks in the upper and lower thirds of my oven. I've lined a few baking sheets here with parchment paper, and I have my piping bag ready. I have a round tip, as you can see there, so that's ready to go. And I wanted to show you a little trick. I have 2 pieces of parchment paper here. On one of them I took a Sharpie and I drew some circles, and that's where I'm going to be piping the tops of my meringue mushrooms. So if I put this one on top, you can still see the circles, but you won't get any of the ink on your meringue. For those of you who don't know how to separate eggs, I'm going to show you. Basically, you just need 2 bowls, one to catch the whites and one to put the yolks. So just give it a little tap, open up the egg, don't let the yolk fall out, and use the other side of the shell to get all that white out. You see? It's pretty easy to do it that way. Sometimes the yolk falls apart, so you have to be careful. And then I put the yolk into my bowl here, and I usually put those in the freezer and I add them to omelets or scrambled eggs or something like that. I don't throw them out. Just like that. And as I'm doing this, someone in a quad just drove by. I don't know if you heard that. Reality TV, I always say. Oh, this one has cracked in a weird way. So I'm gonna have to grab the shell out of there. I'll grab another eggshell here, a bigger one, just in case it cracks. This happens. Not a big deal. Just want to try to make sure I get all of that egg white out. There we go. Now this part is pretty important, like I mentioned in the intro about meringue being a little tricky. Pull out your kitchen scale if you have one, because we want to measure how many grams the egg whites are. Now I've got, most kitchen scales have a setting on them where you can put a bowl, an empty bowl, and right now it's showing me that the bowl weighs 259 grams, but I have a setting where if I push on it, it goes to 0. So that way I can measure only the contents of the bowl and not the bowl itself, okay? So I have exactly 100 grams of egg whites here. And so what I need to do is make sure I have double the amount of the sugar. So I'm going to need 200 grams of sugar, and that's how I measure for the meringue mushrooms. In my bowl here, I've put my egg whites, and I'm going to add that cream of tartar. Okay, got it all out. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the egg beaters, and we are going to beat these egg whites and cream of tartar on medium-low until soft peaks form. Now, I'm going to show you a picture of what soft peaks look like right now. And there's no specific amount of time that it'll take. Just keep checking as you go, and that's what I'm going to be doing. So away I go. No peaks yet, as you can see, so we got to keep going. Let's check for the
of soft peaks. Almost there. Okay, we've got soft peaks. As you can see here, they're kind of sticking out. That's the soft peak we're looking for. So we can go ahead and start adding a little bit of sugar. I just want to make sure my beaters aren't going to fall over there. So we're going to gradually add the sugar as we beat the egg whites, and we're going to beat it on high until stiff peaks form. And I'm going to show you a picture of what stiff peaks should look like. And again, there's no set amount of time that it'll take to do this. You just keep beating until you get the stiff peaks. The reason we want stiff peaks is because when we pipe our mushrooms, we want them to keep their form. And if they're soft like this, they're not going to keep their form as they bake. So I'm just going to go ahead and beat these on high, adding the sugar a little bit at a time until I get the stiff peaks, and I'm going to check once in a while. Okay, let's check if we have stiff peaks. I would say not yet, because if you turn them up, they should stick up, right? According to the picture that I showed you. So let's just keep going until we get those stiff peaks. So I'm dipping my beaters in, turning them upside down. They're not quite stiff yet. Almost there though, because right here, you see it's kind of falling over. If they were stiff, they'd be sticking up. So let's try that again. Okay, let's dip it in. And they're still kind of soft. Keep going. I just wanted to mention something. As I'm whipping, you might see ribbons forming. That means we're very close to having those stiff peaks. Let's check it out. Almost there. See. No, not yet. Almost. I believe we're there. All right, can you see? Those are my stiff peaks. So that's ready to be piped. So I'm going to show you how I fill my piping bag. I basically take a tall glass and I put the piping bag this way. And I'm going to fill the meringue into the piping bag. I've got a little dish of water here that I always stick my spatula in so that it doesn't stick too much. Now this can be / will be a messy job, just to let you know. And you really want to fill it up as much as you can, because you don't want to have to come back and keep filling the bag, because it's, like I said, it's messy. I'm just going to grab another spatula here. So I'll just fill my bag up. Oops. Like I said, it's messy. Reality TV. I'm going to try to get all of the meringue in there, so I don't have to come back and fill it. I decided to put some gloves on because it's really, really messy. So I'm going to show you what I do. Basically, I'm squeezing my bag. It's coming out on the top, actually. And I'm going in a circular motion. I'm actually following my little circle design there. They don't have to be perfectly circular. They could be oval. Nothing in nature is perfect, right? And that's a good thing. When I say perfect, I mean by human standards. Now I'm kind of going around my circles now. I'm not really following them because I want to make as many as I can in one shot. Got a tiny oven. So I want to get all the mushrooms I can make in one go. I love this piping bag. And if you don't have a piping bag, you can use some parchment or wax paper and make it into the shape of a piping bag. Tape the sides together and cut a hole in the tip. That works too. I've done that before. Before I had my piping bag, that's what I used to do all the time. Now I'm going to pipe the stems. Let me move this over. And I'll put this here so you can see it. And I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, I have 12, okay. So I'm going to make probably 15 stems because sometimes they fall over during the baking. See what I'm doing? Just that. Big, small, tall, funny looking. I'm going to show you after what to do on the tops so that they're not pointy. Had we not reached the stiff peaks, these would not be standing up right now. That's why it's really important to do that. Looks like I may only get 12 here. Let's see. I'll try to space them out a bit better because I want to have a few extras. on here. Little fella. Sorry for my arm in front of the camera. I managed to get all of my meringue into the piping bag. So this is all I have here. Let me see if maybe I can get another mushroom top done here. Let me move this over. I'm glad I wore gloves. Got meringue all over me. How about I'll just make a few little circles. We might have some baby mushrooms there. I think that's all I can really fit. Okay, anyway, I don't have much left. I have maybe this much left in the piping bag, so that was pretty good. Just before we put these into the oven, I want to flatten the tops of the stems. Now I've got a little bit of water here in a dish, and I'm going to dip my finger in and just flatten the top. Because when we attach the tops of the mushrooms, we want the stem to be relatively flat so that it'll go on pretty straight. I mean, it's okay if it's crooked a little bit, that's fine. But for the most part, it's easier if it's flat for them to stay on and stay in one place. So just flatten those out before you put them in the oven. Now I'm going to bake my meringues for 2.5 hours. I'm going to put one of my pans on the top rack and the second pan is going on the bottom rack. Halfway through the baking time, I'm going to switch them around and turn them around just to make sure that they get really, really well baked. And once the baking time is over, I'm going to leave them in the oven, turn the oven off and open the door slightly and let them dry out in the oven for a good few hours, or better yet, overnight. Now let's make our chocolate sauce. In my saucepan, I have my water and my brown sugar, and I've put the heat up to medium. I want to bring this to a simmer. Now I'm going to add my milk. And I'm going to bring that to a simmer as well. My milk mixture is starting to simmer now, so I'm going to give that a stir, turn the heat down just a little bit, and I'm going to add my chocolate, just a little bit at a time because I want to make sure that it melts completely. And you want to stir constantly during this process. The chocolate is all melted. Oh my goodness, I want to drink this up. So now I've turned the heat off and I'm just going to add my vanilla and give that a little stir. Now it's ready to use if you want to use it on something hot. We're using these to decorate our meringue mushrooms, so I'm going to let this cool for a while. And you're going to have much more than you need for the meringue mushrooms. So you can store this in the fridge. It's great for chocolate milk or hot chocolate, or to pour on ice cream too. Okay, I'm ready to make the mushroom meringues now. I've let them dry overnight. They were in the oven. The oven was off, but they dried really well. I'm not going to break one, but I want you to listen to this. They're nice and dried out. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn them over. These are the tops. And I'm going to try not to make too much of a mess as I snicker at myself. Now I've got my chocolate sauce, and what I'm going to do, let me see, why don't I push this over a bit? There will be a mess, I know it. I'm taking my chocolate sauce and I'm going to just put a little bit on the actual top of the mushroom. And I could probably lift these up with my fingers, but I just want you to see everything here because I've got a side angle right now for you guys. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one of the muffin stems or stumps and just place it on top. And I'm going to let that dry. Or harden, I should say. My cat was trying to open the oven door all night. I don't know what it was about the meringues that got him going, but he wanted in. Thankfully, he didn't get to them, and we've got them intact today. This is a little one. I'm going to put that right there. So far, so good. All right, why don't I do the rest of them? And when they harden up, I'll show you the next step. What you can do at this point is put them in the fridge. That will help the chocolate to harden. The chocolate has set, so I'm going to turn my mushrooms around and put them on my little tray here. They're stumpy mushrooms. Some of the chocolate sauce, as you can see, got on the mushroom itself, but that's absolutely fine because I'm going to be dusting these with cocoa. And they're still going to look nice. You know, they're not perfect mushrooms, but I'm pretty happy with them. And they're going to be melt in your mouth delicious. Oops. If I wanted to be picky, I could just wipe the chocolate sauce off, but I am not going to be picky today. Oh, this one's kind of lopsided. Just make a little room here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to grab my cocoa. I just have a little bit of cocoa here, and I have this little sieve. I'm going to put a little cocoa in that and just dust. So it's day 2 for me, and I'm going to start by making my cake. First, we're going to separate the eggs, okay? So if you don't know how to separate eggs, I'll just show you how. Just give that a little tap, I meant to say. And we use the shells to catch the yolk. And the egg white drips into the bowl. So you want to put the egg white into a big bowl. And then the egg yolk goes into another bowl. I've got a medium-sized bowl here. A little tap. Now this one may not hold the yolk, so I'm going to grab the other one that I discarded from the first egg, because I really don't want the yolk to break. All right, that's 2. And I'll go ahead and do the last 3. I wanted to share a little tip with you. If you accidentally get some eggshell into your eggs, you can take a little bowl of water with a spoon and get the spoon wet and go in and pick up that egg white, that eggshell with a wet spoon. See, there was just a little piece. You might be able to see it on the spoon right here. Maybe not because of my lights, but if you want to do that, wetting a spoon with water is the easiest way to get the eggshell out. Just to be sure that my eggs are at room temperature, I'm going to leave them sitting on the counter for 30 minutes. In the meantime, I've preheated my oven to 350 Fahrenheit, that's 180 Celsius or gas mark 4, and I've lined my baking pan with parchment paper. This pan is 15 by 10 inches or 38 by 25 centimeters. Mine is a little oddly shaped. It doesn't have a rim at the end. I don't even know what kind of pan this is. I think I got it at a garage sale at some point. But if you have a 15 by 10 inch pan, that's going to work perfectly. Now what you want to do is grease the parchment, because our cake is very, very delicate and you definitely don't want it to stick because it will break apart. So give that parchment paper a good greasing. I'm using butter. You can use whatever you like that you use to grease your cake pans, but make sure you get it everywhere. Dropping it all over the place. There we go. A little more here. Now I'm going to set that aside and take care of my eggs. So in my bowl, I'm going to beat the egg yolks until they're fluffy. So I've got my egg beaters for that. Okay, those are nice and fluffy. And what I've done is I've separated my sugar in half. So I'm going to gradually add the sugar as I'm beating the egg yolks, and I'm going to beat until the mixture thickens. And you're going to feel it thickening. So away I go. That's nice and thick, so I'm going to set that aside. I have a separate bowl here, and I'm going to mix together my flour, cocoa, and salt. I'm going to give that a little whisk to make sure that it's well combined. Okay, that looks pretty well combined. So now I'm going to gradually add this to my egg yolk mixture as I beat. It's going to be quite thick. I'll just do the last little bit of mixing with my spatula here because it is really, really thick. It's almost like a frosting. Okay, I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to give my egg beaters a little bit of a wash because now we're going to take care of the egg whites. Now I'm going to beat the egg whites until they're foamy. I would say that's pretty foamy. So we'll add our cream of tartar. And we're going to beat this on a low speed until soft peaks form. And I'm going to show you right now a photo of what soft peaks should look like. And I mentioned this when I was doing the meringue mushrooms too. There's no specific amount of time that you need to beat, just until you reach those soft peaks. So away I go. Not yet. We're going to check every once in a while. We'll see if we have soft peaks, but it's not there yet. I believe we have soft peaks now. Yes, we do. See? I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to try to show you. The ends kind of stick up slightly, but not quite all the way. So now we're going to add the rest of our sugar. And we're going to add this 1 spoonful at a time. Let me grab a spoon here. And we're going to beat this until we reach stiff peaks. Now this is a photo of what stiff peaks should look like. And once again, There's no specific amount of time. You just do it until you reach the stiff peaks. So I'm going to be adding the sugar, 1 spoonful at a time as I beat, and then I'll check after all the sugar is incorporated. I'll check every once in a while to see if I reach stiff peaks. Let's see if we've got our stiff peaks. Well, we're almost there. They're getting there. Usually when you start seeing ribbons in your egg whites, you're very close to the stiff peaks. And I believe we're there. There we go. We've got a stiff peak there. You just dip in your beaters, and if it stays up like that, that's ready. That's a stiff peak. Now let's incorporate our cocoa mixture into the egg whites. Now just grab maybe 1/4 of what you have, of your cocoa mixture, that is. And with a spatula, we are going to fold it very gently. You want to fold because we don't want those stiff-peaked egg whites to soften. So just fold very gently. It's starting to come together. So now what I'm going to do, now that this is starting to come together a little bit, I'm going to add the remaining amount of my cocoa mixture. It is so thick. Very thick. And we're going to fold this in until we don't see any more white streaks, okay, in the egg white. It may take a little bit of time, a little bit of elbow grease, but make sure you have a gentle, gentle fold, okay? Because like I said, I'm just going to put this over here. Like I said, we don't want those stiff peaks to soften. right, so I'm going to begin folding. I think this is pretty well incorporated, so I'm just gonna take my spatula and kind of scrape around the bottom on all sides of the bowl, just to make sure I don't see any white or any obvious chunks of the cocoa mixture. I think it's pretty well folded. All right, now we're going to spread the batter evenly onto our pan. Now let me make a little bit of room here. I'm gonna try to make sure that you can see the whole pan in the shot. Okay, I have a little glass of water here that I'm going to use to dip my spatula in so that it's easier to pull all of that batter out. So let me start here. I've got 2 spatulas actually. I'm just going to pour the batter in. It's so light and fluffy. My faucet is dripping in the background. I don't know if you can hear it. It's slightly annoying. Now, I want to get all that batter into the pan. We've got a little bit of chocolate on here. Off camera, I'm just using my spatula to get the rest of that batter to the edge of my bowl. There we go. And I didn't need my water after all because it's coming out quite nicely. It's not sticking to the spatula here. So I'm just going to even it out across my pan here. I'm going very gently because, again, I don't want to soften up that egg white. We worked hard to get those stiff peaks, so let's try to keep them. And you want to even it out so that it bakes evenly. Especially with a roll type of cake. You want it to bake evenly because it's got to come out of this and roll up. All right. Now we're going to put this in the oven for 12 minutes until the cake springs back after you lightly poke the top with the tip of your finger. Now the temptation is to overbake it. You don't want to overbake it or else it won't roll. So let's put this in the oven for 12 minutes. So it's been 12 minutes and I've got my cake here and I'm going to show you. Just want to make sure it's all in the shot here. It does spring back up, okay? It stuck to my finger a little bit, but just remember it's going to continue baking for the next 5 minutes while you let it cool. So what I've done is I've lifted my cake a little bit just to make sure that it doesn't stick to the side of the pan. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dust it very lightly with some cocoa powder. That's sort of, we're going to give it a chance so it doesn't stick to the other parchment paper that we're going to be flipping it over onto. You could use icing sugar too if you want. Okay, so now the challenging part. I have a large piece of parchment paper here. I'm going to put it over my pan, maybe the other way so it doesn't roll. There we go. And I've got my breadboard here and I'm going to flip it. Now be confident, you can do this. I'm talking to you and to me. I'm going to have to put my oven mitts on. Actually, you know what? I mentioned that I was going to take my time in this video so I could show you the techniques. So let's do this real time. I'm going to move my cocoa and all of my stuff. Put on my oven mitts and flip my cake. Let's see. I kind of want to do it without the oven mitts. I think I can. All right, here I go. All right, there we go. That breadboard's heavy. All right, hopefully nothing has ripped apart. That pan is, I think I can handle it. Okay. So far so good. Sorry, I just hit my microphone there. I said so far so good. Now we're going to very, very gently pull the bottom piece of parchment paper off the cake. Very gently. Very, very gently. I'm just going to pull it up on this side because it seems to be sticking just a little bit. Okay, on this side too. Okay. Phew. I've got to tell you, I was nervous. I'm always nervous when I do this. Okay. So this looks good for now. I can see that the ends baked a little bit. This side might be okay, but this side here is a little too baked for me, and that's because of the crazy shape of my pan. Like I told you, you might be able to see, it's thicker up here, and then it gets really thin down here. And that's why the end always bakes a little more than it should. So I'm just going to take that off, and I will snack on this later. So this is all good. this part here is a little overcooked at the ends here. Okay. Now we're going to roll our cake. I just want to cut off a little bit of the parchment paper here because it's a little too long. Okay. Now I'm going to start rolling. You want to be gentle but firm. We want to roll it tightly, but not too tightly. That's why we only let it cool for 5 minutes, because it needs to still be warm when we're rolling it so that it doesn't break. And if it breaks, don't worry about it. You can cover it up with the frosting. I remember one year I didn't trust the recipe and I overbaked it because it seemed like it wasn't baked properly. And of course I couldn't roll it because it was too baked, right? It was overbaked. And what happened was we cut it up into pieces and we turned it into a log house cake. If I have a photo of that, I'll put that up for you. So I'm still gently rolling, very gently. Okay, so now it's rolled up. I'm going to grab a little towel here, and I'm going to roll it in the towel. There we go, just so it stays together. Okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the cake cool. I've got my wire rack here, and I'm going to put my rolled up cake on the wire rack, and I'm going to let that cool for 1 hour at least. Now let's make our filling. I'm basically just going to take my whipped cream, and I'm going to whip it with the, I almost said amaretto, but that's not what it is. It's an almond liqueur. It's not a real amaretto. Apparently, I still call it amaretto. So I'm going to whip those two until the whipped cream comes together, and then I'm going to refrigerate it until I'm ready to use it. Let's check the consistency. That looks good to me. So I'll just refrigerate that until I'm ready to fill my cake. Okay, our cake is cooled, so we're going to very, very gently unroll it. Let me take the towel off first. And remember what I said, if it breaks, don't worry, the frosting will cover it up. But it shouldn't break if you didn't overcook it. But mine is now breaking, so I'm going to grab my spatula here and push that down. There we go. That's why you do it gently. Oh, it smells so good. That mocha. All right, let's see here. It's cracked in a couple of places. But like I said, that's going to be completely covered up with the frosting. It's still going to look amazing. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to take my raspberry jam and I'm just going to spread some jam on my cake. And I'm going to leave about a 1/2 inch around the entire cake so that it doesn't all ooze out. I think that the flavors of raspberry and almond, the almond liqueur that's in my whipped cream, they're really good together. This is a whole jar of jam, by the way, or jelly, I should say. If you're using raspberry, make sure you get the seedless one. You don't want your guests picking their teeth when they're eating your cake. Oh, it smells so amazing. Oh, I want to eat this right now. All right. Self-control, Rain. Self-control. Okay, here we go. So I've got all of that on. Now I'm going to do the same thing with my whipped cream. Just making sure not to put it right up at the edge. So I'll spread that out. There we go. I'm going to lick that clean. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to roll it up again, okay? Now we'll start, we rolled it up this way, so I'm going to roll it up this way. Really, really gently. Now mine is sticking a little, so let me get my spatula here. I'll get it wet, and I'm just going to make sure that it rolls properly. It's a little bit of a messy job, and there are going to be some areas where you'll see the whipped cream and the jam kind of sticking out, because that's where I had the cracks in the cake. So far, so good. Oh, there's another, that other crack was right here, so I'm going to be careful. I'm just going to rinse off my spatula. Hold on. Okay. Let's continue I put too much, so it's all going to fly out at the bottom here. What a shame. I'm going to have to clean that up. All right, there we go. I'm going to make a bit of a mess here. Now that's my roll, and see, it's cracked there, but it's okay because, like I said, the frosting is going to cover all of that up. I'm just going to rinse my hands again. Because I'd like to gently place this onto my serving platter, and I may need to get a larger spatula for that. So just give me 1 second. Okay, I've got a clean piece of parchment paper here. I'm going to put it right under my roll, and I'm going to roll it backwards. There we go. Okay, so now it's rolled up. I'm going to wipe my hands again. I'm sure these fancy cooking channels probably don't make so much of a mess as I do. So I'm going to just gently pick this up and place it on my serving platter. Let me get rid of this here. Clean this area up a little bit. I want to show you my serving platter here. Okay, so I've got my cake on my serving platter. Now, if you wanted to be picky, after this cools a bit, you could slice off the edges, you know, but like I said, the frosting's going to cover it. So we're going to leave it like this, and I'm going to cover it and put it in the fridge and let that cool for an hour before I frost it. While the cake is cooling, let's make our frosting. So in my large bowl here, I've put my cream cheese, and I'm just kind of breaking it up a little to make it easier on the egg beaters. And I'm going to add all the other ingredients except for the maple syrup. So that would be my brown sugar, the butter, melted and cooled, and my vanilla. If you wanted to make, if you wanted to make a chocolate icing, you could actually add a little bit of cocoa powder to this, or you can add some chocolate sauce. I have a recipe for chocolate sauce that I'll put in the cards above and in the link below. So now what I'm going to do is just beat all that up together. Now we just add our maple syrup. Give that a good stir. Let me get it from a different angle here. There, that's easier. It smells so good. Make sure you get all of that maple syrup incorporated.
Now it's time to frost our cake. I'm just gonna remove the parchment paper. Oh, nice. It stayed together. So now what I'm going to do is I have my brown sugar cream cheese frosting that I just made. I've put it in a piping bag. Let me show you. It's in a piping bag here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pipe the icing or the frosting all over the cake, and then I'm going to use just a regular butter knife to spread it. And I have a glass of hot water on the side here just to dip my knife into to make sure that nothing sticks. So away I go. Wow, the cake is done, and doesn't it look festive? The mocha flavor combines so well with the almond liqueur and raspberry jam. Yes, there were a lot of steps involved, but it was pretty easy overall. This is going to be really nice with some hot coffee and digestive liqueurs. I hope you enjoyed this video, my friends. If you did, please like and subscribe, and do share this with anyone you think might enjoy it. And don't forget to leave me a comment. I love your comments and I do reply to them. I would love to know if you made this cake and how you did. Thanks so much for watching, my friends. See you next time on Rain's Kitchen and Garden. Happy holidays!